September! That's the sound of Bitcoin and Ethereum and Uniswaps and cum rockets and everything else in the crypto space this week. Who could have seen this coming? We'll talk gold, we'll talk silver, we'll talk copper, the usual there. We'll talk Gates and Gates. Gates gone wild. The Gates are misbehaving. Vax badges. Mr. Hajj, I'm going to see if you have your Vax badge yet. UFOs, Elon, Lamborghinis, the markets, all sorts of things to get into. So let's get into it. I am Gerardo Del Real, along with my co-host, the world famous, the witty, the insightful, the chartist, the technician, Mr. Nick Hajj. This is episode 118 of Bizarro World. Thank you everyone for joining us on our weekly therapy session. Mr. Hajj, do you have your Vax badge yet?
I do not have my Vax badge, though I am vaccinated. You know, this is obviously the road that we didn't want to go down. I haven't even heard of a Vax badge until 30 seconds ago, but I already don't like it. How you doing, Gerardo?
I am well. Thank you for asking. It's very important that I enunciate that correctly, right? Because a slip of the tongue can take a Vax badge and turn it into a Vax badge. And you could get slapped in some parts of the world for asking someone if they have a Vax badge. But
or elected president, you know.
I am well. We'll get into the Vax badges in a little bit, but we got to start with crypto.
Grab them right by the Vax badge.
We're also going to get on a serious note into the reproductive laws and women's bodies in Texas and Florida and all the fuckery going on there. So don't think it's all going to be Vax badge jokes all pod long, everyone. But let's get into the markets. We got to start in the crypto space. You and I joked last week. I wrote about it. You've written about it that, look, eventually the music stops playing. The clowns wipe the mask off their face. And we were due for a pullback, right? Bitcoin was up some 300% over the last 6 months. We know the run it's had over the past several years. And so it was really interesting to me to see all of the disbelief in the crypto space that something could pull back 30, 40% from these highs. I know you like the chaos. I have to get your thoughts on how you process the drop, what you think follows. Is there more room to the downside? Is this the time where, I'm asking you a lot of questions now, but we'll get to them. Is this the time where you have to start being selective with your crypto coins and picking winners and losers? And is this a come to Jesus moment for the crypto crowd, right? Is this when they get serious about actually looking into if there is value, if there is scarcity, if there is utility? Because that hasn't been the case up until now. I met a young lady last week that didn't know what I did for a living, and I just asked her what she did, and she gave me the whole spill, right? She's like, I am a crypto babe, and it's to the moon, and we're going to buy lambs, and we're going to be fab, and it's smart young lady, intelligent, knew her stuff, but like she had all the bullet points down, right? And I should have known then that was a contrarian signal. And that in part kind of inspired the writing that I did this week. And a few days later, it started crashing. So first off, did you enjoy the chaos?
Have fun being poor, crypto girl.
I take it you enjoyed the chaos.
So it's a whole lot of questions there, and a whole lot of chaos, and it still is. As I look at the price, it swung at $3,000-$4,000 today. Bitcoin did so. Inherent in it's a volatile asset, a new currency, commodity, however you want to classify that in your lexicon. But anyway, it's volatile. So what do I want to say? All kind of stuff. There's been so many shoe socks, shoe shine boy moments in this crypto run up. You and I have talked about, right? The pizza delivery boys talking about crypto.
Yeah.
You just had your crypto girl. Everybody owns it, right? Grandmas, dads, moms asking about it. And so there's been so many of those moments. We didn't know when the top was going to be. I mean, we've talked about the metaverse, crypto lands and digital assets and NFTs and cummies and Uniswaps and all sorts of stuff. And so, which one of those was the top going to be? And ultimately, I mean, what was it? You call it, right? I mean, the media wants to run with the
Elon narrative, right?
Right, exactly. You were writing about the Chinese financial rules, and I'm sure there's some math and some chart stuff involved in there. And it's funny that it pulled back right to 30,000, which would be like the resistance line. And so,
and bounce.
That's a bit as far as euphoria, right? It was a very euphoric week because you had Dave Portnoy making videos about which shitcoin he was going to back because he was tired of all this. Different stuff about Doge, and he was tired of missing out, and they were so easily manipulated that he was just going to pick one and get behind it and see if he could basically drive the price higher, right? And so, and he made a whole video about which one it was going to be, like it was a draft, and he was putting on the hats for the different cryptocurrencies. I mean, it's a dog and pony show, right? And then there was this other guy with hundreds of thousands of followers who made a lot of money on crypto, and he put together this program called Bitcoin Pizzas, right? Where in select cities around the country, he partnered with pizza shops, and you could call and order a Bitcoin pizza and get it delivered in like a special Bitcoin box. And some of the proceeds went to fund development of apps and things on the blockchain that use crypto. But you couldn't pay for the pizza with crypto, by the way.
Mr. Pompliano at Pompliano on Twitter. Follow him. He's actually a great follow. I like that guy. I think he's a hustler, and I think he's a smart guy, and I think he's a big advocate and ambassador for Miami and people moving to Florida. And him and his brothers are a great follow. Sorry to cut in.
No, but then there was signs of the euphoria, and then boom, and in a month you get Bitcoin cut in half from 65,000 down to right around 30,000, where it bottomed very quickly and then bounced back up over 40. And so you had a lot of questions. What would I say? We've been telling you about the shit coins, right? And so for me, it's Bitcoin and Ethereum. I've been saying that. I think it's par for the course. If you look what Bitcoin's done over the years, right? It's known for sell-offs and losing significant portions of its value, and then retaking its previous high and moving higher. And I think for Bitcoin, this is par for the course. I was a buyer down around $30,000 this week.
So you and Crypto Babe, you and Crypto Girl would actually get along.
Well, here's the thing between me and Crypto Babe, right? Which is where the conversation goes next. And, I want to talk about owning something, which is a whole wider conversation. But these people who are only invested in crypto, right, is the thing, right? Live and die by the crypto, right? I don't think Crypto Girl had a diversified portfolio of stocks and other assets, right? And so
don't be judgy, Nick.
That's
don't be judgy.
Well, it's not being judgy. It leads to a lot of wider discussion as far as like, and I've been saying this for years, like what are these people going to do as they mature, as they see these haircuts and see the volatility in the cryptos? I think they're going to, invest in other things. I don't know if that's going to be gold, but I think it is. And I'll shut up now because I've been talking for a while, but you can see that this week as gold approaches 1900, it didn't really blink in the face of stock market sell-offs, crypto sell-offs, et cetera, right? In fact, you could definitely make an argument that money coming out of crypto is good for gold, not because I think that crypto detracted from gold in a money sense as far as money not going into gold, but I think it's just been an attention hog, right? And has diverted attention away from other asset classes that I think these crypto investors are gonna now start looking at. So anyway, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts. Excellent answer, by the way. And I do want to have the discussion about ownership. My thoughts are this. You and I were at a conference a few years back. I was on a panel, a precious metals panel, and somebody in the crowd asked, this is when Bitcoin was 17,000, 18,000. And they asked, well, what do you say to people that believe that Bitcoin is the only way forward and that gold is dead. And I said, well, I'll say that they haven't had their faith tested yet, right? And sure enough, we saw a subsequent drop to, I think it was a low of 3,000 or 4,000 when you called the next bottom, right?
Yeah, I mean, definitely below 5,000. Yeah.
Right. And then that was the drop that kind of made room. I talk about energy all the time, right? That kind of made room for that next leg up, which overshot to the 60,000 level. And so I think the correction is healthy. I think both Mr. Nick Hajj and Crypto Babe have a bright future with their Bitcoin holdings. I do believe that this is the time to start differentiating from, you know, a Dave Portnoy, who of Barstool fame, the founder of Barstool, that went on and said, I forget which one, it was like something moon, right? Let's say it was Safe Moon. He said, I like the word safe and moon. And so I found I found a coin that has the word safe and moon. So I am investing $200,000 in it. And the very next day it crashed. It was like poetry in motion, right? It was beautiful. Not because it crashed, because it spoke to the fact that this was just speculation at its finest. I root for everyone to make money. There's not a hater bone in me. I want to see everyone do well and prosper and be free and be left alone by government, and live their life in a very productive and happy way. So I'm not cheering his loss of capital. But I was amused by the chaos, and the timing was just really ironic and delicious to me. But I do think this is a come to Jesus moment in the crypto space where people are going to have to start asking the questions. You know, why did it bounce from that $30,000 level? I'm talking Bitcoin now. You know, why did other Bitcoins hold up well? Jim Bianco had a great thread on Twitter about certain coins tied to the dollar that actually did really well and didn't suffer a loss at all. And
those would be stable coins, Gerardo.
There you go, which are different than what type, Nick? Shit coins.
No, yeah, sure.
Right. They both start with S. Very different words, kind of like Vax badges and Vax badges, right? So important differentiation, important to make the distinction. One will get you in trouble, you know, one will make you happy. And so you want to make sure that you know what you're buying, why you're buying it. And look, I dabble mostly. I've said this on this podcast many a times, and you know this because we're friends in life, in real life, not on Twitter or this podcast. You know that the bulk of my assets outside of real estate and some precious metals, which I use as my, you know, when it all goes to hell hedge, most of my portfolio is invested in natural resource stocks and the higher risk, higher reward ones in the junior space. That's my comfort level. But I know that I could take a 50% loss on a whim. I'm very clear about that. I know why I'm buying. I know what I'm buying. I know what my timelines are. I know what the upside is. And even then, oftentimes you're not going to get it right. It's the way that it goes, even being informed and having a phenomenal network and access to the company and the management. So I say all of that to say, this is an opportunity. Some crystal ball action here. I think Bitcoin will see new all-time highs before the year is out. I think Ethereum will see new all-time highs before the year is out. I think gold sees new all-time highs before the year is out. I think uranium sees new yearly highs, not all-time highs, but that's coming sooner or later. And so, look, you have a favorable market. You have favorable monetary policy. You have fiscal policy that, you know, the compromises now are between 2.3 trillion and 1.7 trillion. It's all a shell game. You have central banks behind you. There's more capital chasing assets than there are quality assets. And now that capital is going to start differentiating between those quality assets and the trash, I actually think that's extremely bullish for Crypto Babe and Nick Hajj and myself in the junior resource space. I think if you buy good stuff, you're going to have a phenomenal year and a phenomenal couple of years.
I own many more resource stocks than Bitcoin as a percentage of the portfolio, Gerardo.
For the record. So listen, the other thing that I was really heartened by, it made me smile. You mentioned gold. I think gold and the crypto people and the gold people and the major US indices just got to get in a room and just get it out of the way, right? I think that they're all headed higher. I think, the little mini flash crash that we saw in the market for a couple of days, gold didn't blink. Then rates went up a little bit. Gold didn't blink. It went higher. That is healthy to me. Now, is it sustainable? I think we'll know. I've said the past few weeks that I think it's getting ready to either break out or break down again. I don't think the sideways pattern continues. Price action the past 2 weeks, extremely bullish. Does that mean it, can't drop $100? No, the markets are going to do what the markets are going to do. We will see which way it goes, but the trading action looked good and silver's hung in there, closed at 27.50. Gold closed at 18.80. Copper had a good pullback to 451. Again, healthy. If you get a pullback in these copper names, well, I think you can kind of preview what the charts say and see what they did when they hit 482, new all-time highs, and then look forward 6 months because I think we get new all-time highs again. So sounds like a lot of bullishness, but there's a lot to like and a lot of ways to make money out there right now.
Not a lot to add there, except that the dollar has broken down over the past, I don't know, a week or so.
100 years.
Well, yeah, but even more so over the past recent weeks, which has allowed gold to go to 1900. And we cite this sideways action, but really gold's been moving up. And so,
yep.
It's at 1900. And so that's where it's sort of going to be make or break if you say it's going to ready to break out or break down. And so that's definitely something to watch. But that dollar ticking down, let me just put my mouse on it so I can see the exact number. It's down like 1.5, 1.6% in a month. That's a big move for the global reserve currency, right?
That's a big move for the global reserve currency. Absolutely. It shouldn't trade that way. And I think it's part of the reason why China's going to eat our lunch if we don't get our act together. I don't see us getting our act together. And again, that'll take some time. And that's another discussion that we've had in the past, but we'll have it again. But yeah, the bottom line is, look, there's a lot of ways to make money right now. I talked real estate. I mentioned that, and we've talked about how hot the market is. Austin is ridiculous right now. There are homes. There's a home that's listed on the corner of our subdivision that sold for $150,000 over asking price in one weekend. And I'm not talking $1 million home. I'm talking maybe a $500,000 home that sold for like $650,000. These are homes that just 3-4 years ago you could have bought for $350,000, $400,000 maybe if it was bigger and nicer. And that's all of Austin. That's Round Rock. That's Georgetown. That's Austin. That's the entire area. And apparently it's across the country. This is something that's happening everywhere. So again, I think there's a lot of capital chasing a finite number of goods. And if you're able to discern the quality from the trash, you are going to do extremely well in this cycle. Should be a fun rest of the year.
I give you just a fast little anecdote. We were out to dinner. Well, actually, we weren't out to dinner. It was a cooking class. So you just get drunk while you make your dinner and so on. But anyway.
Sounds fun.
One of the guys is a mortgage broker, and there's lawyer, insurance agents, all kind of people there, and the mortgage broker has obviously been crushing it here in Spokane, right? And so he's been buying all kind of toys, side by sides. They already had like 20 some goats, but they've been getting like ponies, and they added some donkeys, and he built like a big shop. And one of the guys tells him to slow down because the mortgage boom isn't gonna last forever. And he just, without missing a beat, he says, "You haven't seen my bank account, man." It's like a boom, man.
Yeah, I see a lot of people that think they're smart right now.
Yeah.
And hey, again, kudos to you. I'm cheering for everybody, right? Except for the pedophiles and the rapists and the domestic violence people and all the people that everybody knows I hate. But other than that, like, I'm cheering for everybody to do well and prosper. But there's a moment of accountability in everything that we do. There will be one in the gold space. There will be one with the dollar. I think the crypto crowd is going through one now. I think it's healthy. I think it's good. I think it forces you to ask some questions. And I think we're in a good place. I feel good about all of it.
I do too.
I like it. Let's talk helium. There was a company that you offered as a pre-IPO opportunity, a true private placement for accredited investors, because you, unlike other services out there that promote themselves as being able to provide insider access to private deals if you're an accredited investors, really are just kind of crowdsourcing deals and telling you they have the network and the leverage. So there's really no skin in the game, and there really is no network there that they're tapping into other than just raising money with everyone else, which no knock on it, but that's not a private opportunity. My kid has access to that opportunity, right? If he so wanted to and could check the right boxes. But I say all that to say that you offered a helium opportunity and it started trading today, if I'm not mistaken, traded well. And helium is one of those things like, mushrooms, the deal I did recently, because I'm trying to diversify a little bit because I'm so heavily weighted with the resource space, and a few other deals that you've sent my way that have done extremely, extremely well. This helium deal is one that, though in the resource space, is a completely different market. And I would love for you to talk about, one, the opportunity you provided and how people could take advantage of that, because we're going to talk our own book now. But two, the market itself and what you like about this specific one. And, it's a brand new company. It's a free podcast. So being able to introduce a brand new company that just started trading in a sector or space that's really opaque, I think is a benefit to people listening, instead of me just ranting and raving about vaxxed badges and waxed badges. And we'll get to the vaxxed badges here in a little bit. But tell us about helium, Nick.
Yeah, go ahead and press mute and you get your weekly dose of talking our own book and setting up some content for some topics that we want to talk about. So, the easiest place to start is with balloons, right? Because that's everyone's basically experience with helium, is you go and you fill up the balloon for the party. And that's been quite expensive if you haven't noticed over the past couple of years. You can go fill up balloons and pay 20, 30, 40 bucks really quick just for some gas that used to be pennies or a couple of bucks. And so it's a very long story, and I guess I'll just get into it because we're on a podcast and that's what we're here for. But helium is very valuable, and it's very hard to find in economic quantities, and it's very hard to store because it's the lightest element on the periodic table, and it escapes the Earth's atmosphere. And so, or at least one of the lightest on the periodic table. And so if it's not in a natural underground dome or in a tank, it leaves. And so humans have known that it's valuable for some time. It helped as far back as the world wars. For example, because of its low boiling point, because it's light, because it's inert, etc. And so, all the way back in the 1920s, I think it was, Congress said, well, we got to start storing this stuff. And they built up a big reserve, use it to win the wars, help create the atom bomb. And then it became sort of expensive, and the Cold War too, because it helped us go to space. And then after that, it became sort of expensive to store, and the National Helium Reserve that was created by Congress was ordered to be sold off. And that's sort of what was completed. That was in the 90s. They mandated that, and it took 20 years to sell it off. And they stopped selling the helium to commercial enterprises in 2018. But now it's critical for all sorts of stuff that we do. And I'll give you just, I guess, a couple of examples. They blast helium into fiber optic cables to insulate the fiber wires so they don't get nicked or jacked up. And that's important for the internet. And you have to literally refuel like MRI machines with helium, because it's the helium gas that makes it stay pressurized to let the imaging work. And then it has all sorts of other uses in hard drives and semiconductors, which there's a giant shortage of. And so I guess I'll stop rambling on about the uses. But once they stopped selling from the helium reserve, which is where commercial enterprises were primarily buying this stuff from, the price went up. And so it went up very fast, from like $100 per million cubic feet or MCF to well over 300. And now people are private contracting for $700 to $1,000 an MCF, which is already a 10 bag increase in just the commodity price in a couple of years. And so you have to relate it to other small resource markets. I mean, there's just too many natural parallels to rare earths, or specifically uranium, where there's not a lot of quality deposits. It's not necessarily a rare element, but it's hard to find it in economic quantities. It's hard to store, all that sort of stuff. It's critical, et cetera. And so companies that have started to list, it's sort of like a mini boom, right, have done quite well. I mean, there's been Royal Helium and Desert Mountain Energy, and both of those stocks have gone up, I mean, thousands of percent, at least 3,000%. There's one that went up 3,000% called American Helium that doesn't even have a website that works. I don't even think they're in the helium industry anymore, but the stock still trades, but you can't even go to the website. It's so interesting. There's so few companies that, anyway, if you can actually do a real deal, like in uranium, you got a shot at doing okay if you can keep the share structure intact and do what you say you're going to do. And so anyway, the race is on for helium. People literally across the world are looking for it, and not just here on Earth. Now, there's different kinds of helium, helium-3 and helium-4, and I'm not going to go down that road because that's above my pay grade. But billionaires are looking in outer space for a certain kind of helium as well. It's no secret, Bezos and Musk have talked about this, and it's also one of the keys to making fusion work. So, there's just a lot of interest in helium, and it's an opaque market. There's no spot market. It's all private contract. If you can, and there's only, it's like an oligopoly, right? There's only like Lind and Praxair and Air Products. And if you can find an economic deposit, you can contract to those people at opaque terms and make a lot of money. And so I started looking for deals in the space and came across one that was doing things right on the geology and engineering side, and also on the capital market side. And I got involved with it, wrote checks at lower prices, got people involved, and it started trading today. It was up as much as, I think, 40% more than its go public financing price, and trading millions and millions of shares on day one. So,
so happy subscribers, I imagine.
Well, that's it. I guess that was the first part of your question. Yeah, I mean, we do that in a publication called Hajj Family Office. That's just for accredited investors that want to invest in private deals, and you get to fund these things literally privately, oftentimes before they're public, and if not, certainly at generous terms, either below the price that it's currently trading, or with warrants that give you a bit of leverage to sweeten the deal. So it's a fantastic way to invest if you're able and capable. And anyway, even if you can't invest privately, I mean, helium is something to take a look at. So stay tuned, because you'll be hearing a lot more about it from us, I'm sure.
Do you have to have a Vax badge to be a member of Hajj's family office?
Nope, I would never require such a thing.
So apparently, let me provide some context and some background. My wife and I have been together happily, thankfully, for the past 20 years, right? Going on 20 years. And we started dating before we were exposed or privy to dating sites, social media dating sites. So I've never been on, neither has she, right? And hopefully neither of us have on a Tinder or whatever the heck's still out there. I couldn't tell you what's out there, a Match.com or I don't know, Cupid's Nose, whatever exists out there. We've never done that. We've never experienced what it is to date in the age of social media and dating apps and what that looks like. So a part of what really just kind of puts me in a funny mood about this whole Vax badge thing is, one, I think it's silly enough, like just dating on dating apps. It's crazy to me. I mean, we have acquaintances and friends, of course, that, are younger or divorced or separated or just dating, and they love the apps and they're always looking. And it's just weird to me that you just kind of look and like see a face or an image and like, yeah, no. It's kind of like porn, right? Like, don't like the title, don't like the caption, don't like the image, skip. Ooh, like that one. That one sounds good. And the title doesn't mess with my moral compass, right? So anyhow.
It's the same way you pick shitcoins.
There you go. Apparently. And so it was interesting to me to know that dating apps are now providing a feature where you can upload your vaccination card. And if you do, and you're fully vaxxed, you get, you guessed it, a Vax badge. And so a Vax badge now makes you like if you're into that sort of thing, like front of the line, right? And I mean, that's where we are post-pandemic. And at first I thought it was silly. And then I started thinking about it, like just from a practical perspective. And yeah, I mean, if I was single and I was dating and, I was looking to hook up with a woman out there, of course I would much prefer to see, let me be careful here, a vax badge on her profile. Just because, it would just make me feel a little bit more at ease with the pandemic now getting better and all of that. But I think it's neat. I think it's creative. I think I think I read somewhere that the Biden administration was encouraging and supporting like 9 different social media dating sites, and I call them social media because I'm old. I don't know what they're really called, but just dating apps to incorporate these vax badges. And so yeah, vax badges may help with the second part of that equation. So congrats to those.
I'm a little relieved. I thought it was going to be more sinister, government related, and I also thought it was going to be a physical vax badge that you could then you could put little shiny stickers on it, and you could bedazzle your vax badge. You could show everybody.
Your vax badge may lead to that. That is up to consenting adults, Nick. We are no one to judge, right? I tell you who probably disagrees with me. Texas Governor Greg Abbott probably disagrees with that. He probably wants to know whose vajayjay is bedazzled and if there's stickers on it and if it's wax and if it's vaxxed. I mean, I would bet, and obviously I'm a betting man, right? That's what I do for a living, kind of. I would bet that he would have an opinion and try to pass a law saying you can or can't bedazzle your vajayjay and have a waxed vag if you have a vax badge. And I say that not just to be funny. I say that because he just recently signed into law a very creative new way to punish abortion patients. Because, of course, I mean, all the kids are doing it, Nick, right? It's all the fun rage. Haven't you heard?
Can't wait.
Have you heard about this law?
I have. And yeah, you got a Supreme Court going on for another law. And it's just, total libertarian for me. So I just don't understand the intrusion. And anyway, go on.
Yeah. And look, let's be absolutely clear. I joked about all the kids are doing it. Well, look, nobody that I know is looking forward to having to have an abortion one day. I've known many people that have. I know many people that are completely dead set against it. Look, nobody does that for fun, right? Let's get that out of the way. So I am all for increasing funding to education and access to education and access to prevention and all of that. It really strikes me as very hypocritical for Governor Abbott, who, along with his group on the right, talk about individual liberties and rights and are so passionate about the Second Amendment, as am I. And we just passed a law here in Texas where you can conceal carry now without even taking a training course. And so guns are defended with such fervor and passion as an individual's right to bear arms and carry and defend yourself. However, when it comes to sex education, when it comes to abortion access, when it comes to access to just have a conversation about options, whether or not you need an abortion, this bill now will make it to where anybody that even has a conversation about abortion with you, if you then end up following through with that, they are also liable. And the way that they are working this in is as a workaround, right, to the Wade versus Roe roadblock here, is they want to allow private citizens the right, they don't want to, they just passed this, the right to sue anyone who aids or abets, as a language, an abortion after 6 weeks of pregnancy. And the goal, of course, is to bankrupt the hell out of anybody who will even have a conversation with you about it. And it's just extremely, extremely offensive to me that friends, family members, clergy, the people in your church, a rape crisis counselor could be sued if there is a conversation with either of those people, the pillars of the community, that mention or indicate that this is an option. Any one of those people could be sued for up to $10,000 or for a minimum of $10,000, excuse me, plus attorney's fees. It is insane that in 2021, we are having this discussion and that same party won't even agree to an independent investigation about the insurrection on the Capitol. The Law and Order Party doesn't want to know what really happened and who was communicating with legislators, and they want nothing to do with it. The same people that had like 100 investigations about Benghazi and Hillary's emails, right? And believe you me, I'm no huge fan of Hillary, but the hypocrisy is staggering. And in this situation, in this case, it's extremely, extremely, extremely bothersome to me. And again, I am not somebody that says, hey, abortions are fun, everyone should be doing it. But I am also not somebody that believes in telling any woman what they can and can't do with their body. And yes, I am all for sex education and funding and prevention and getting as much awareness as possible, so no woman is ever in a situation where they have to even think about this stuff. But that's not the world we live in, everybody. So this is complete bullshit. So once again, Governor Abbott, after me giving him kudos for lifting the mask mandate and, empowering businesses to get back and fight to make a living, he earns my weekly fuck you politician of the week.
Well, it's so dumb. I mean, it's a woman's issue. This isn't a government thing. It was decided long, long ago, and I don't even understand why it's an initiative or a priority for any politician other than to kowtow to ever shrinking religious cohort who is also dumb as fuck with their creationism. So it doesn't make any sense to me, and I'm unapologetic about that as someone whose wife was a counselor in the women's health industry. The stories that you hear out of there are absolutely atrocious, from incest to rape. Nobody wants to be there, right? And so to continue to attack a woman's ability to do what she thinks is best for her and her future is frankly un-American. And so there's a court case in front of the Supreme Court right now, and I'm sure this law that you're have just described in Texas is going to come under equal legal scrutiny. And I guess that's about all I have to say about that.
Yeah, it's again, it's amazing to me that they even attempt this, let alone pass it, let alone throw a press conference celebrating it in a state that is so supposedly pro-liberty and pro-life. The state that just got done executing someone. Forget about the merits. I mean, it just can't go both ways, right?
It's so weird. I think in one state and sorry to get off topic, but I think in one state, it might be South Carolina. Sorry if I'm wrong. I think they just, legally brought back firing squads because the drug companies stopped providing them drugs with which to do lethal injections. It's crazy. Like, why, what?
I have no answers to the why. I know fuckery when I see it, and this is fuckery. This is just intrusive, abusive. You're re-traumatizing, rape victims or victims of incest that are in a situation that's traumatic enough by, adding another layer. Is if I'm a young lady or an old lady or any age lady, a woman who's been raped, and it results in a pregnancy, and I choose to not want to move forward with that pregnancy, and I talk to my mom, or I talk to my dad, or I talk to my priest, or I talk to anyone about it. It's a tough enough decision to make for anyone. Because again, this isn't like the cool thing to do. This isn't a thing where like it's just fun and games and everybody had a blast at the abortion today. Mimosas, right? No. And so on top of that, now the consideration has to be, well, what if I tell my mom and she's sued and we don't have money, so $10,000 could bankrupt her or put us on the street? And we know what this looks like because we've seen this in the 50s in America. We know what happens. You end up with coat hanger abortions. And so when you have laws that shut down Planned Parenthood clinics and you have laws that make it to where you have to drive 10 hours to even have access to the education, let alone the abortion facility. Well, you're making it to where only the rich can do it. And it's all sorts of isms. It's classism, it's sexism. It's a lot of isms and none of the good ones, everyone. None of the good ones. And thread carefully because it's Texas now. But yeah, elections have consequences and your vote matters. And I'll be following this to see which way it goes.
Boy, and you got a lot of out-of-staters moving into Texas too. I'm sure you have some "Don't California My Texas" bumper stickers going around, and those people vote. So yeah, it'll be interesting.
It's going to be a fun decade. I'll say that. It's going to be a fun decade, an interesting one. So last week we talked about Bill Gates and we also talked about Matt Gates, and the Gates have gone wild, right? We now know that Mr. Greenberg, who is Matt Gates's buddy that, he hung around and hit the town and, hit the apps and all of that. Joel Greenberg is his name. Has now pleaded guilty to 7 counts of, and I want to get the counts right because this is important. So let me make sure that I get the exact thing that he was dealt and accused of and pleaded guilty to. He pleaded guilty to sex trafficking of a minor and a host of other crimes. In exchange, he's cooperating fully with prosecutors. We talked about that last week. But now it seems like Mr. Matt Gates is next in line because there's really not that many other people to tell on in this case. And Mr. Gates has gone quiet. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens there. He is now saying, Joel Greenberg is saying that they both paid women to have sex with Gates, and the two shared sexual partners, including a minor, a 17-year-old girl. And the part that, as if it wasn't sick enough, if it wasn't sick enough, they used taxpayer dollars to the tune of $70,000 to do this with, Nick. And so kudos to whoever paid to fly a plane over the federal courthouse on Monday with a banner that read, TikTok Matt Gates. I thought it was hilarious. I thought the message was on point. I would contribute to a GoFundMe to do that again if you're out there listening and happen to catch this little corner of the world we call Bizarro world. Reach out. Let us know. I'd be happy to contribute to another one of those flyovers. But yeah, curious to see where that goes. And then last week we also said it was really interesting that, Melinda Gates had made it a point in her divorce. One of the few public details that had been leaked is that she had trouble with Jeff Epstein giving Bill Gates marriage advice, which I think any woman or man probably would be correct in assuming it's probably not the advice. The advice Epstein gave Bill Gates was hilarious in a sick kind of perverted way. He said he thought Bill Gates and Melinda Gates' marriage was toxic. Can you imagine, Nick, if Jeffrey Epstein told you your marriage was toxic? Mm. And so I guess Bill Gates took that advice to heart because shortly thereafter, he allegedly cheated on his wife with a Microsoft employee, hence him stepping down from the board. And I knew we thought last week, okay, there's got to be more to it. That's starting to come out now. Another thing to keep track of, I thought the Gates thing was, a funny play on Dumb and Dumber. But for all the things that Bill Gates is accused of, this one seems to have some validity to it. And yeah, just naughty. It's
a naughty little homophone there. The Gates and the Gates.
Gates and the Gates. Nick, it's 2021. And in 2021, anybody can start a podcast, hence the reason that here you are listening to us 118 episodes later, and just start a podcast and rant about whatever you want. So in 2021, the world is so fucking crazy that we now have confirmation from the former president of the United States, Barack Obama, and multiple branches of our government, including the Navy and multiple pilots, that have now confirmed, absolutely without a shadow of a doubt, that UFOs are real. UFOs are real, and not just unidentified flying objects, but the kind that you see in the movies that do things that no human technology to date that we know of has the ability to do. There's a gentleman named Ryan Graves who was a former Navy officer. He's a pilot, and they asked him on 60 Minutes how often he would see these UFOs, and he casually said, "What do you mean how often?" Like, they're like, "Yeah, how often? Like every couple of years? Like once a year? Was it like exciting?" And he was like, "Oh no, it was like every day for a couple of years." Jesus. Every day for a couple of years, and so. It's at the point now where there's a task force, a real one. It's going to the Senate. Nobody's even denying this. Barack Obama was on a late night talk show, and they asked him about the UFOs, and he basically casually said, "Yeah, it's kind of a thing. When I came into office, I asked, and I was like, is there a lab somewhere that we're keeping the aliens and the spaceship?" And they joked, and then they said, well, there's footage and records of objects in the skies. We don't know what they are. We can't explain how they move, their trajectory. They don't have an explainable pattern. We don't have an answer. And so, yes, this isn't a, frustrated Navy gentleman that's just looking for attention, doesn't have anything else to do, retired and bored. There's footage and records of objects in the skies. And these are Barack's words here, Obama. We don't know exactly what they are. We can't explain how they moved. And so here we are, Nick, 47 minutes into our little corner of the world called Bizarro World. And 2021 is so batshit crazy that's how long it takes to say UFOs are real.
I think it was similar last year when we talked about UFOs when they were popular. They came around, and what happened this week? The guy was on 60 Minutes, right? That's why everyone is talking about it again. I want to see one. I mean, I'm ready for what's next. I mean, were they doing reconnaissance? Are they powered by helium? Do they have their vax badges? I want answers.
I want answers. I want answers about everything. I'm huge on accountability. I'm huge. We've talked about it. We both are. And I cringe a little bit when I see that, again, and I hate to be picking on you guys this week, Republican friends, but it's your group right now that's fucking things up when it comes to this transparency and accountability thing. The Republicans are dead set against an independent investigation as to what happened on January the 6th and if lawmakers were involved in communicating with the people that ultimately stormed the Capitol, killed a couple of cops, threatened to kill a bunch of lawmakers, and did all sorts of, nasty, disrespectful things with our Capitol building. They are dead set against it. I can't for the life of me imagine why. Can you, Nick?
Other than it's convenient to rewrite history.
We would never do that in America, would we?
No, and I don't have his name off the top of my head because I don't make space for that stuff in my brain. But there was a guy on Meet the Press last Sunday who was talking about, it was January 6th was like just another, you would have thought it was just another tourist trip in the U.S. Capitol. And then, of course, Twitter did what Twitter does. He found pictures of the guy in fear for his life, blockading the door.
And again, it's funny because it's so insane. It's as if they don't know there's video and pictures and it's documented. This isn't the slave days. This isn't, we were writing up the Constitution and we wrote 3/5, but we really didn't know what we meant. And it was all about state rights. And, we got to keep the statues up because of our history and our culture and our heritage. And look, arguments to be had for another day. I don't want to have those right now. I'm just telling you the talking point from the right when it comes to transparency and accountability, and we have to remember history, and this is why we should preserve it, right? That's all we heard last year when the Black Lives Matter protests were going on, and everybody wanted to cancel every statue, which again, I wasn't completely on board with all of that. Like, I think it's important to remember history and how fucked up it was, and to document it. We don't have to celebrate it, but we should absolutely document it, and we shouldn't rewrite it, which is why I don't want to rewrite this. I want to know exactly what happened. I know the retail version. I know what I saw when I was sitting in my living room and I couldn't believe my eyes. And then I kept telling my wife and everybody that I knew, like, oh, they're going to start shooting any second now. Because I had just seen what they'd done to the peaceful protesters a few days before, right? They're beating the fuck out of them. The ones that weren't doing anything, journalists that were out there covering it, holding a camera, they were getting mashed out and stomped on by the cops. So I was like, oh, they're beating the cops up now. They're going to start firing. This is going to turn deadly. And then nobody did anything except for a handful of the Capitol Police that, they squared up with these people and they fought a lot of them back. And some of them were brave and saved a lot of lives, but there were a lot of them that weren't. And now we're realizing and finding out that some of them were in on it. And I suspect that's the case with a lot of the people from the right. To be fair, 35 out of 211 Republicans did vote for an independent investigation. Again, it's important to note here, this isn't the Democrats wanting to have just a Democrat-led investigation, which of course is going to be biased and corrupt because that's what every party does, is bias and corrupt everything, right? They view everything through their own lens. This is just for creating a commission and having an independent investigation, try to sort out what the heck happened and who did what. And so, yeah, really, really interested to see where this goes, if it goes anywhere. But I think it speaks volumes that the party of law and order wants no accountability, no law, and apparently no order.
The gentleman's name who said it was just another tourist strip in the Capitol was Representative Andrew Clyde. And the Washington Post headline was perfect. GOP congressman compared Capitol riots to tourist. Photos show him barricading door. And so it's just so hypocritical. And, kudos to the Republicans who did vote for it, right? Like one of the
Absolutely.
guys who has been, on it all along and was butting heads with Trump is like Romney, for example. And so, it's time to stand up and be heard if you're on like the right side of history, right? And I think that's gonna pay dividends for Republicans who want to actually serve going forward, right? The other thing is people are stupid as fuck, Gerardo. And so, if you look at the polls, Trump is still like who they want in office and that sort of stuff. And so it's all very interesting.
Very interesting indeed. Also interesting, we have Lamborghini. I mean, of all the brands, right? Lamborghini is known for beautiful vehicles, beautiful engineering, loud engines, high speeds. They've decided they are going completely electric by 2030. I was a bit surprised there. And I think, I don't know, but I think a mutual friend of ours and his family are going to do really well with that classic car collection with combustible engines inside of it in the next 20 to 30 years, because apparently that, it's everything is going, it's going the way of electric. It's going to launch its first fully electric car before 2030 and wants to be completely electric by then.
what do I want to talk about? I mean, I'm interested to see what completely electric means. I know words mean things, but I'm sure going to be a collector's edition or a limited edition. I mean, I just can't see it. But anyway, that's not the point I want to make. The point I want to make is, I mean, I think everyone's doing this in some capacity. Like Porsche has made a big push into electric vehicles. Stock has done quite well. I actually saw an all-electric Taycan the other day. I had to do a double take because it was completely silent, and I was like walking right by it. It was
it's a good-looking car, by the way.
Pretty sharp, yeah. And no, I mean performance cars and commuters alike. And so, but again, like you say, I mean the hobbyist enthusiasts, car enthusiasts, etc. I mean they love that. Internal combustion engine. But anyway, no, the future is electric, and it's happening. And Ford was out this week with the launch of their all electric Ford F-150, which is the best selling car in the country, and it came at a $40,000 price point, which is I thought was the most interesting thing to me to start. Obviously, base model, but that's affordable in the realm of Ford F-150s. And so I think you're at a turning point, I guess, is what I'm saying.
I agree with you. I think we're at a turning point on many fronts. Last but not least, I have to touch on it because I've been wanting to speak about it a few weeks and it keeps passing us by because we keep going. And here we are again, almost an hour, right? There's a lot going on. But have you read about the mysterious brain injuries that U.S. personnel diplomats, a lot of cases, CIA, State Department, Defense Department have come down with here in the past 5 years or so?
I haven't, but that sounds very Russian. Let me hear.
So there's more than 130 people now that have what the New York Times describes as mysterious episodes that caused brain injuries in spies, diplomats, soldiers, and other U.S. personnel overseas starting 5 years ago. It's more than 130. To the Biden administration's credit, I guess he's allocating more dollars and personnel to more aggressively investigate this. Initially, the first publicly confirmed cases were concentrated in China and Cuba. And there were about 60 of those, not including a group of injured CIA officers whose total, of course, was not public, right? Because they're not going to tell you how many of those guys and gals you got. But now there's new cases from Europe and Asia. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just odd. I'll give you one example. There's a gentleman in 2019 serving overseas, and he pulled his vehicle into an intersection and then was overcome by nausea and headaches, and 2-year-old son's in the back seat, starts crying. And after he pulls away from the intersection, everything just goes away and the kid stops crying. And this happened multiple times. And so, you get one case, you get another case, you get a third case, but now it's up to over 130 people, not counting the CIA number, which they don't want to disclose, obviously, for obvious reasons. And it's interesting. I mean, some of these are long-term brain injuries, including debilitating headaches and sensory phenomena such as sound and pressure or heat, or vertigo or head or neck pain. So interesting. I don't know where they go with this. I'm sure they have an idea of what type of microwave weapons and who owns these and who could possibly be behind it. But yeah. Let's see. I mean, just another thing for our men and women out there that are, doing the good work to keep us ahead of the game. Another thing they're exposed to, right? As if there weren't enough things.
So they're saying it's microwaves?
They're saying it is likely a microwave or directed energy device.
Directed energy. Yeah. Interesting.
Interesting indeed. And sadly, there's physicians at Walter Reed that are telling, government officials like, look, a lot of these are so severe that several of the victims here are at risk for suicide. They're on suicide watch because it's so debilitating. Mm-hmm. Not good. Not good at all. And I mean, again, whoever has this technology, I don't know what's stopping them from scaling it out, but war and everything that goes on behind it. There's many different types of wars, and you don't war to be kind, right? I don't have a problem with someone and figure out how to be the nicest to them, right? I try to figure out how to put them in the most uncomfortable position I can put them in to try to make the conflict go away and end up in my favor, right? If we're going to be in a conflict, which is why I prefer not to be in conflicts. I prefer to be happy, and that's why I got my Vax badge, Nick.
I like it. Yeah. I mean, we're just coming off the pipeline attack, and this is another one of those, future warfare type things that you have to add to the list. And unfortunately, an all too frequent reminder of those things that are there just below the surface, right?
Agreed. Nick, what's going to happen this week in the crypto space? Does it come back? Are you and Crypto Babe going to agree to profit together and prosper and to the moon?
I'm not sure, Gerardo. It's like I say, it's so volatile. It looks like you got a bit of a recovery bounce back over 40, but that didn't hold at all. And so, this thing won't stop trading all weekend, of course, and it'll be interesting to see next week. Like I say, 30,000 right about there is the level it has to hold. And so it's heading back down there right now. I don't get paid enough to tell you what's going to happen.
If anybody is in New Orleans tonight, local food, mystical music, the city's best bartenders, I am not being paid for this. I just think it's hilarious. Stormy Daniels will be reading oracle cards. So if you're in New Orleans and are in the mood for some mystical music and that delicious New Orleans food, we all know the bartenders are amazing. Stormy Daniels, author, actress, consultant to the famous and former dancer and porn star, will now be reading oracle cards for you. So that's happening. That's all I got. Nick, anything else you want to get off your chest?
Sounds like the perfect place to bring your what, Gerardo?
I'm gonna leave it alone, Nick. I'm gonna leave it alone. But yeah, I'll leave it alone. That's all I got. I am Gerardo Del Real, along with my co-host, Mr. Nick Hajj. This was episode 118 of Bizarro World. Have a great week, everyone. Nick, some words of wisdom?
Nothing. See ya.
Take care, everyone.